It seems to me that almost in a paradoxical way, liberalism also destroys the options that a lot of people had, especially people who didn't have, are not inclined to be seekers, to explore ancient philosophy, to discover these things on their own. And a lot of these parameters were encoded in traditional norms, which liberalism has one purpose of liberalism is to dismantle these things and then leave all of these options up to the rational individual to choose if they want to adopt a traditional norm. But the problem is that these traditional norms were essentially a commons that has been destroyed, has been the idea of destigmatizing every type of behavior, sounds wonderful on the face of it because it does liberate you in one way, but it also takes away that model. It takes away that idol that people should strive towards. Like, for example, monogamy or a traditional type of marriage, which is pro-social in so many ways, but now that's taken off the pedestal. We can have all sorts of arrangements, all sorts of sexual relations, and the more uncommon they are in terms of traditional arrangements, the better, because you are therefore more free because you've rejected the guardrails that society used to have for you. But it seems that, like you said, a lot of people have pulled the short straw on this because there's a lot more social dysfunction. People are very clearly not happier than they used to be in terms of these social relations. So I wonder what is there to be done to reconstruct this? Is there any way, can people actually choose these things in the vacuum?
Well, that's of course the most difficult question, right? But you're right. I mean, if you want to talk about plurality, the plurality is always the plurality of something that is socially embedded, like norms, habits, customs. The world before modernity, or before really modernity took its toll, was more pluralist because there were more social variety or cultural variety. There were all sorts of traditions. And as again, one of the philosophers, I can't remember which one, said, people at that time, before 20th century, shall we say, people generally did not have opinions, right? They had they had habits, they had sayings, they had proverbs, that had customs. They didn't have opinions. Now, opinions came later when people lost all this traditional heritage which they had, or they put it aside, and now they have opinions. And it turns out that there are not really many opinions, because practically in the world without this richness of social heritage, there's only one opinion, right? And one set of opinions. If you talk to people who believe in same-sex marriage, or who fight for polyamoria, right, or polyandria, or whatever, right? All sorts of extravagant combinations. You are not faced with a variety of views. There's just one opinion, right? And that's a paradox in the modern world. That is, we all talked about plurality, pluralism, diversity, and the people who talk about it are really indistinguishable. I mean, that's one view, rather simple or simplistic, which is called, for the reason hard to understand, which is called pluralism. It's anything but pluralism. That's my, if I can make a short digression. In the European Parliament, about 700 parliamentarians, and 80%. This is this large coalition, the mainstream parties. They have the same view almost on everything. And of course, they call themselves pluralists. And there is 20% of deputies who have different points of view. And 20% of parliamentarians are being, bullied, humiliated, excluded from all sorts of bodies, and everything in the name of diversity and plurality. So when this mainstream will have finally 100% of the European Parliament, and everybody will have the same opinion, that will be the triumph of pluralism and diversity. Okay, this is that type of thinking. Now, what is to be done? That's an old question. In this part of Europe where I come from, it is being associated with Lenin, because Lenin, the guy who organized the communist revolution in Russia, he wrote an article called "Что делать?" What is to be done? So whoever asks the question, what's to be done, we always, that's Lenin's question. Okay, that's Lenin's question. Very important question. Well, I think it's not just one strategy, no one simple remedy. We have to start with what you rightly pointed out earlier on, namely the language. We cannot use the language. So we have to show as many people as possible that the emperor has no clothes. I mean, that these pluralists are not pluralists. I mean, that they want the monopoly, right? That's a kind of despotism that they want to impose. So you have to start with the language, right? It shouldn't be a liberal language. I mean, you it's not that you join them. If you can't beat them, join them. I mean, that's an old saying. But this time, I think it won't work. And you have to present a clear alternative. That's why I'm worried about what's going on in the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church was an alternative, right? It presented alternative thinking. We did not want the church to be a liberal church, because liberalism is propounded by liberals. The liberalism has its champions, its advocates, has its political parties, its institution. Why should the church join the liberals? So we should fight for the institutions and defend those institutions which are essentially by their nature non-liberal, like the churches, or particularly the Catholic Church. Family, education, right? Culture is also so. I believe that these are the areas where we should present our case very strongly, and no compromise. But being a politician, I also believe that political space is extremely important. I disagree with a lot of my conservative colleagues who are saying, no, not the government, it's a civil society that should do the job. Well, I greatly respect the civil society, but it's not enough. I think this anti-American, this is the American point of view, this anti-government idea. No government, because the government is not the solution. The government is the problem. It was, I think, Ronald Reagan who said that, conservative as he was. But that's American point of view. Whether it's true in the United States or not, I just don't know. I'm not knowledgeable enough to enter into American problems. But I know that in Europe, government has a lot to do. So whenever there is a conservative government, it should behave in a conservative way. Unfortunately, in Western Europe, it hasn't been happening. We had twice, at least, we had conservative governments in Spain, and either they were intimidated or simply they didn't have enough courage. They didn't roll back the leftist reforms, and they didn't conduct a conservative policy. So that was an example of cowardice. The left-wing government do not have these problems. The left-wing governments, with full force, all the resources they have, they want to change this society. So whenever there's conservative government, it should act resolutely, seriously, because the matter is serious. Whether we will have conservative governments in Western Europe, well, that remains to be seen. Probably in Italy, that we do not know. Maybe in Spain, but well, that we do not know. But that would certainly be helpful. I mean, the civil society, the grassroots movements, important as they are, and they are very important, they will not change the course of European history and European politics. There has some more powerful guys had to participate, primarily the governments.